Welcome back to the Crochet Corrado. So it's my friends over at Yarnspirations.com. We have another mosaic crochet concept for you today, and this is the Party Hardy Mosaic Crochet Baby Blanket. So what you're looking at here is that the baby is sitting on a mosaic pattern that looks like hearts. Now when I was really looking at it, I'm like, wow, look at those hearts going in there, and it's amazing how the colors can change to make it really quite fun. Now the outside border is pretty strategic, but it's the hearts that I want to concentrate on the most, and you'll see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of hearts, and there are 6 hearts across when you're going to look at this thing. We're going to be using Bernat Baby Velvet for today's yarn of choice and a 5mm size H crochet hook today. Now you can do it exactly the way that you want to see it, but I bet you're wondering how can you change the size if you'd like to change it and make it bigger or smaller. So I'm going to be covering that basis. I also have it downloadable for you of my learning to do this, and I also have a little mini sample to show you too. So let's start off by whetting your appetite and look at this. Look at the hearts. Isn't it cute? It almost looks like it's got a heart with eyes, and it is super adorable, and it's one of the easier mosaic patterns that we've been able to learn. So this is a repeat, so you see one repeat right here and then another repeat, so on, and so you can just keep on adding. So the diagram I'm about to show you just shows you that you can keep adding more and more, and then you'll have the borders on each side, which is in the diagram as well. So it's a really beautiful concept in the sense that when you see a color, it's actually the color going across and then back. So when you have this color, it's across and back, and on the side it's just being carried up through the side, and you're going to use the border to hide these carried yarns, so you don't have to change the color completely out and get rid of the colors. You just have it carrying up on the side. So the other side here, there's no yarn being carried up, so it's only carried on one side to make it a lot easier for you to be able to follow. Now the crochet diagram that I'm going to show you is a little bit of an alteration, so you'll see this available on the last page, and you'll see the diagram that is provided. All these written words, it takes all these words to explain what's happening in this diagram. So if you know how to read a diagram, which I'm going to cover extensively today, then this pretty much is a concept that you probably can do. So let's show you my little worksheet, and let's show you how to decipher that. So here's my little worksheet, and it's actually pretty easy to follow. So I took the pattern and then I doubled it to make it look like it's actually more than one just sitting there. So, and I really wanted to take a look on how it transitions from one repeat to another. So you have both of the side edges on this, but you also have the repeat. So if you want to keep adding more and more hearts, it's in sets of 18 stitches in order to make this happen. So when you're going to do this and you would like to change the size for whatever you want to do, if you chain in sets of 18, so 18, 18, 18, and then add 6 chains to the end, you can have this in any size that you wish. Now the yarn quantities are definitely going to change. So what are you exactly looking at? What is the point of that, and etc. Let's get in, because you're gonna see some really fun numbers in there too. So every 2 rows is the same color. So you start the row on the odd side. So you start the row with the color, and then you circle and come back like so, and then the next time it's going to be the next color, so it's going to go across and then back. So you're carrying up the colors when they're not in use on this side, and you will trap them underneath the borders. Now when I was doing my test trials, I realized that I was counting the number of boxes that it would take in order to do the colors. So for example, when I was coming across and starting it for the first time, you have to count the number of stitches, and then you have to leave space, and then more stitches. So I put those numbers in there because I wrote it on my copy that I did, and I thought it'd be helpful for you. So whenever you have like a really big number, you'll see there that I put kind of like a number. So for example, there's 11 of this color in a row, and etc. So the thing that you got to watch out for is the ones that drop down. So when I also have this explained right here. So when you're creating this across, for example, there's 7 of this color. When it gets to the white here, that's that color coming down. You have to leave space. So that's going to be a chain 2 space, and you're going to skip over this stitch, and then you'll do the next 7, and then you'll chain 2, skip over this stitch, and then do the next 9, and etc. And that's how you're going to get it all set up. Once you get this thing going, I think it's going to be around the 7 mark, you'll start seeing how everything is going to be starting to come together, and you'll start seeing the repeating and being able to see the mirroring effect of each one of the hearts as you're going across. So that's the thing that you need to watch out for. So even though it shows, for example here, that there's 11 single crochets, remember when it drops down is that the 1, 2, 3 is going to be a single crochet, and this will be a double coming down over top of this to create the look. So you just gotta watch those. So there is 11 stitches, but you gotta watch the ones that fall down. So out here is the color. So for example, this is color, it could be A, and this could be B, and then A, and then B. So every 2 rows is the same color as I explained, so it's there and back. So you'll wanna watch these colors. So I color coded it so it's easier for you to be able to tell. Now the blanket that you see, the next time the hearts appear when it stacks up, so you'll finish all the way to the top here, and then you'll start back here number 1 and build the next layer of hearts on top of it, and they just change the coloring on the particular baby blanket. So it's really not that hard to do. So you just gotta watch when the stitches drop down, and there is instructions from the designer if that's gonna help you out as well. And also I did state that there's 2 in there to go. So we're gonna I think get started. This is kind of a mosaic concept. The Joanne stitch along really is kind of like the ground zero for me for learning this concept, and then I've done the Nordic blanket, and then when I really looked at our collection on YouTube, I realized that I've actually been doing mosaic without even realizing it with different other projects, and you'll find those playlists available here on YouTube as well. So without further ado, let's get ourselves started, and I'm going to refer to the diagram, do the instruction, and etc. So let's just go a little bit further for the understanding of this, and then we're gonna dive right in. The thing you need to watch for, and this has happened on the Joanne one, so if you're doing the Joanne stitch along or the Nordic, you'll have the same thing. So you're gonna go there and back, and then the next color there and back. On the back of it, it looks striped just like you see. So it's a neat concept. So the other side looks completely striped, so even if it flips over, it'll just look like a striped blanket. So you're just gonna be able to do that. So these ones here that are dropping down is a double crochet that goes over top of the existing chain spaces that are there and links right into where the color was before, and then that's how those be able to come down. So whenever you see a drop down like that, you can see it's just a double crochet into this stitch, but it just went over top of what was already sitting there as a chain space. So you really have to watch for that. Here's the other tip that I have for you. It's my last tip for now, is that when you go there and back, whenever you go back, you match stitch to stitch. So if it's a single crochet, if it's a stitch, you put in a stitch. So it's like a single crochet when you're going back. You'll see it on the back side. So you'll just match stitch to stitch. If there is a chain 2 space, you match it. You make a chain 2 space. So you keep that looking consistent. So it's only gonna be the side that you see is when you do all the decision work on how things are gonna be popping on down, but when you turn it over, you match stitch to stitch, chain to chain, and it works out every time. So let's begin to do this, and let's move on now, and let's get our foundation row started, and then we're gonna begin. Okay, let's begin our foundation row. So before we start this, we need to create 2 rows of just the whatever color that you would like to do. So whatever color that you're about to do, A is going to be the outline of the heart. You can see it. See the heart there is gonna be there. So that has to be the determination of what color you're going to start with. So in my particular case, I did the outline with the purple last time, so I'm gonna change it this time and make the backdrop purple just for the fun of it. So we have to go in sets of 18. So you can go in the pattern and it says chain 114, right, if you would like to do this, if you want exactly as is, but if you want to alter it, you chain in sets of 18 and then add 6, and that's also here as a highlight as a note. So let's grab our crochet hook. It's a 5mm size H, and let's begin. So let's begin with the slip knot, and you can chain either 114 or you can do a customized size and just chain in sets of 18. If you're customizing, this is what we're gonna do. So you're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So there is one heart right there. Is the afghan big enough for you or not? If not, just keep on going. So another 18. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So if it's big enough, yes or no. If not, you want to keep doing that, and if once you're satisfied, you need to add another 6 for the balance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So once you've added that 6, the hearts will stay in balance in this particular project. So let's move on to row number 1. This is the foundation, so we need to do 2 rows of foundation, so there and back, and then we begin to play with the diagram. Starting second chain from the hook, so just count it back. So 1 and 2, turn it over and get the back hump of the chain, and I want you to single crochet in each one of the chains going all the way to the other side. So just one single crochet in each. This is an intermediate level. So if you're a beginner crocheter or an easy level, just take your time and just work your way all the way across. So it's one double crochet, sorry, one single crochet in each one of the chains in the back hump. Now this yarn is not that difficult to work with. Sometimes the lighting is plays with your eyes. It does shimmer, and you just have to take your time and just do your very best. So I'll see you at the other side of this chain. Once you go all the way across your chain, just turn your work, and this is the foundation row number 2. So you're just gonna chain up 1 and just apply 1 single crochet in each one of the chains going all the way, or each one of the stitches going all the way back, and then we're going to go back to the diagram and we're going to decipher what we're up to, and we're gonna begin the party at that point. So when you get back to the other side, create a slip knot with the other color yarn that you want to play with, and we're just gonna put this onto this. So just do your last stitch, but don't finish it all the way. Just yarn over, pull through, and then take the new color and put it onto the hook and pull through. So this new color then is ready for the next layer that we want to do. So we're gonna be carrying up on this side. So when you go to turn it, you want to turn so that these yarns stay out of your way. So just push the other one here towards your lap, and then the other one will just sit on top. So but before we can continue, we have to know what we're gonna do with this new color, and that's where the diagram comes to be. So here's my diagram. You can also use the one on the pattern, but mine has it double so that you can see it. Take a sticky note and stick on, so see how each color, so the gray here is color A, B, A. So just hide out anything above row 1 and 2. We're gonna concentrate on those first. And if you do that, it's easier to follow along. So when we go to start, we're gonna do the first 7. I marked it with the number 7 as this. When you see the white, that means that we have to skip that stitch. So we're gonna chain 2, skip that stitch, and do the next 7, and then we're going to keep doing the repeat. So if you want to keep going more hearts because you're not doing a sample, you just have to make sure that you go 9, and then you just continue, which will take you over. So it takes you over the line of the repeat, and then you leave another space, chain 2 when you do that, and then 7, and then you're just gonna end up at the repeat, and so you just keep on going. So it just kind of makes sense when you're going to do that. So just want to see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the 9 that you see here is in between the sets of hearts. So when you're going to look at the hearts, let me just take this out and show you here. So there will always be 9 stitches that are separating these hearts in between. So when it comes to the outside edge, the outside edge is slightly different, is that it's only gonna be 7. So when you look at it here, you'll see that there's 7 on this side and then 7 on that side. So you have to just concentrate that the ones between the hearts are slightly different than the ones on the edge. So when we go to do that, we just have to do that. So when we get to row number 2, we turn around using the same color. We match stitch to stitch. So if there's a chain space right here, we chain 2, skip over it, and then do the next 7, and then chain 2, and etc. So I'm gonna say to you, match chain to chain, stitch to stitch, and that's what that means, and then we'll move up. So let's do rows number 1 and 2 using the other color. So let's do rows 1 and 2. Chain up 1, the new color is already on your hook, and in the same first stitch, just pull things tight if you have to, and you're just gonna do the first 7 as single crochets. So you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And as soon as you get that 7 done, we're gonna then jump over the space. So we're gonna chain 2, always chain 2, skip over the next stitch, and then do the next 7 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that 7 that you just did is the bottom of one heart. So chain 2 to skip over the next stitch, and now we're gonna go in between the 2 hearts. So you skip over the next one, and then there's gonna be 9 in a row. So let's just do that. So just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're gonna then jump the next space, so chain 2, and we're gonna do the bottom of the next heart. So skipping the next one, go into the one after that, and go 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then chain 2. Now if you were moving on, then and you weren't coming to the edge. So when you skip over the next one, you'll do 9, and then you'll skip a stitch, and then you will do 7, and etc. But eventually you'll come to the end and skipping over, and you'll do the last 7 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And once you're satisfied, just turn it and match stitch to stitch. So each stitch will get a single crochet in the chain 2 space. Just skip over that chain 2 space by adding another chain 2, and just make sure you go into the stitches right after or before. So you'll do that with all those spaces that you will find within this whole thing. So just chain up 1 and match stitch to stitch, chain to chain, and this is row number 2. When you come all the way back to the other side, I'm only gonna show it once. You want to change the color back to the original color. So you go there and back with the same color. So the last one you want to go in, pull through, and then drop that color and bring up the other color. So when you go to do that, you want to be strategic about it so it doesn't get all tangled up, and just pull through, and then that stitch is ready, and then you're ready to go back into the diagram and look to do some more. So we're now looking to do 3 and 4. So with the second color that we just put back on is that we are going to go and we're gonna do the first 8. So this one here that has the drop down, that is going to be a double crochet, and it's gonna go into this stitch right here. So it's gonna go over top of those chain spaces, like right in front, not like bearing it underneath. And then the next one here, you need to leave room for this one that will come down. So the next one right after this will be a chain 2, and then you'll have 5 single crochets in a row. You'll leave a space because this will jump down in the future, and then the next one you're gonna immediately jump down, and then you do all of these. So there's 11 of those in a row, which is including the drop downs. So you'll do your repeats over and over and over, and then at the very end you'll have your 3 stitches left over on both sides. So there's a little bit of drop down in this section, and let's begin rows number 3 and 4. Let's begin row number 3. You're gonna chain 1, and you're gonna do the first 8 in a row. So let's count those out together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And there's a chain space. So the 8th one is dropping down if you look at that diagram. So you're gonna wrap the hook, and you're gonna come into this purple that's down here. So you're just gonna put these to the back and just grab the purple only, stay on the front side of the work, and pull through 2 and 2. So that caused that double crochet just to lay directly in front. Now in the diagram you'll see that the next stitch is grayed out, so that you have to chain 2 because you have to skip the next stitch, and you want to just put in there 5 single crochets in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the next one is grayed out, so you're gonna do a chain 2 space, and then you're gonna drop down into this stitch like so. Okay, so you drop down, and so this one counts as one of the 11 that you'll have when you're going to count this across. So starting in the very next stitch, this is number 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you're crossing in between 2 hearts right now. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And remember you had to do 11, so this is a chain space, so you're gonna come down in front. So and that's your 11th. So the next one you need to leave space for the next one to drop down. So chain 2, skip the next stitch, and go into the next 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and skip the next stitch. So chain 2, and then drop immediately down. And so you want to do your repeats over and over, but eventually you come to the very end of the section. So in this case this one is included in the 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then as you turn this, you'll do number 4 and match stitch to stitch, chain to chain, and I'll see at the end of number 4, and I'll have the yarn color already changed over and ready to go number 5 and 6. Let's do number 5 and 6. So the first 4 are gonna be the the single crochets, and then we need to leave space here, so we're gonna be chaining 2 and jumping over the space, and then the next 4 and then jumping spaces. So there's a lot of spaces to jump. Just keep an eye on your counts. Keep an eye what happens in between the hearts, and then the very last part here there's gonna be 3 single crochets in a row at the very end. Let's begin number 5. Let's begin row number 5. You're gonna chain up 1 and you're gonna do a single crochet right in the first 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and what you need to do is that you need to leave a space. So chain 2 and jump over the next one, and then do the next 4 in a row. So 1, 2 and 3, and look, there's a space, so that means that you have to jump down. So that's your 4th one is going down like so. And then what you have to do then is chain 2 because you want to skip over a space, skip the next one and just do the 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and this is right directly in the center of one of those hearts, if that helps you to know that. And then you're going to chain 2 because you need to leave a space, so skip the next one and immediately jump down. Like so. And now the next 3 will just be a single crochet. So 1, 2 and 3. So look at each one of these hearts like it's a mirror, so what happens on one side happens on the other. So now that you have your 3 in here now, sorry, the 3 that includes this one, so that's your 4. So chain 2, skip the next one and single crochet in the next one, and that's the end of the repeat, so you keep repeating over. So let's do the next 2 because you can see it's crossing the line there, and then chain 2, skipping the next one to leave space, and keep doing it. So you need 4 in a row at that moment. So you're just gonna drop down like so, and you need to leave a space. So chain 2 and skip the first one out and go to the second for 3 in a row, and this is the center of this heart. And then chain 2 to leave a space, skip the next one and then immediately drop down. Okay, so that one and 3 more of its friends. So if you look at, it's in groups of 4 there. And then chain 2 and then skipping 1 and going into the next, and you'll keep doing this repeat all the way across, and then eventually at the very end you'll have 3 single crochets in a row. So row number 6, chain to chain, stitch to stitch, so turn and just go all the way back, and I'll see you at the end of number 6. Before I take you back to the diagram, you just want to take a look at your project. So when you flip it over and get ready for your next round, just take a look and make sure everything looks like it's aligning properly, and if not, this is your opportunity to be able to adjust anything that you have to do. So don't get too far in this and then realize that you have to pull out. So let's move on to number 7 and 8. So let's begin doing 7 and 8. So you're gonna see right off the bat we're gonna go 5 in a row. Remember the 5th one is gonna be dropping down, and then we're gonna skip a stitch. So chain 2, skip, and then you're gonna have 11 in a row, and then you'll skip and then 5 and etc. So the very end of this you'll have 3 left over at the end, and then 3, and then you'll just flip around for number 8 and stitch to stitch, chain the chain. Let's begin number 7. Let's begin row number 5. So chain up 1 and do 5 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and look, it's a space, so you're just gonna drop down in front for the 5th one. You need to create a space then for the next one, so chain 2 and skip the first one after the space. So skip the first one and go the next 11 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, and the 4th is gonna be dropping down, and then keep on going. So 5, 6 and 7, and the next one is gonna drop down. So this is number 8, and then keep on going. 9, 10 and 11. So you have your 11 in a row, and then you're going to chain 2 to skip over the next one and then drop down in the one directly after that to do that. and then you are gonna then single crochet in the next one, and then this is the middle, this is the start of a repeat. So just keep on doing that. You see that it's kind of working its way out, and let's keep on going. So now you're gonna do the next 2 in a row. So 1 and 2, and then drop down again just like you see, and then you're gonna chain 2 and skip the next one and single crochet in the next you're gonna do 11 in a row. So 1, 2 and 3, and then you have a drop down that's gonna show up. This is 4, and then keep on going. So 5, 6, 7, and then you got to drop down for 8, and then 9, 10 and 11, just like that. And then you got to skip the next one, so chain 2 and then drop down into one right after that, and you'll keep doing your repeats going all the way across, and then eventually at the very end you will end up with 5 stitches left, which includes that drop down. So make sure that you end up with the right number of stitches. So that's the end of that one, and then we're going to then turn and do stitch to stitch, chain to chain for number 8. Okay, number 9 and 10. So we're gonna kick off. The first 2 will be singles, and then you want to skip over a stitch, so chain 2, then 3, skip over a stitch, and then 9, skip over a stitch. So remember where it drops down, you have to drop down, so just keep an eye on that. So there's not too many drop downs then in number 7 as in number 9 as we're gonna go along, and let's begin to do number 9 and 10. Okay, get that next color ready if you haven't already. So chain 1 and you do 1 single crochet in the first 2, and then you're gonna want to create a space. So chain 2 and jump the next one, and then keep on going over. So the next 3 in a row. So 1, 2, and this one has to drop down because there's a space, like so, and then chain 2 to create a new space. So skip this one and single crochet the next 9 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. This is the center of a heart, and then you're going to chain 2 to skip over the next one, and then immediately drop down in the one right after that. Just like that, and then just do the next 2. So this is where the repeat then happens for the heart, and then you're just gonna carry on. So let's keep moving here. So we're going to then chain 2 to create a new space and skip over the next one, and then single in the next 2, and then drop down. Create a space, so chain 2, skip the first one, and then do the next 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and skip the last one there. Chain 2 to create a space, and then drop down. So you want to keep doing your repeats all the way across, but eventually you will hit the other side. So you're going to single crochet then the next 2. So 1 and 2, and then chain 2, and then skip the next one and just single crochet the last 2. So just take a look at your work, make sure it makes sense, and then turn your work and match stitch to stitch, chain for number 10. Let's move on to 11 and 12. So 11, there's 3 singles in a row, and then you're gonna keep 3, and the one is a drop down, so keep that in mind. You're gonna skip this stitch here, so chain 2, and then you have 15 in a row. Remember that there's gonna be 2 drop downs that are included in that 15, and then you'll get to the point where it's gonna start doing the mirror effect as far as like another repeat, and then eventually on the other side you'll have 3 single crochets in a row, and then you'll match stitch to stitch, chain to chain for number 12. So 11, there's not a lot of drop downing at all, and you're gonna see the heart really taking shape. Let's begin number 11. You're just gonna chain up 1 and do the first 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and the third one is a drop down, you can see by the space, and you want to create a space. So chain 2 skip the next one out, and then do the next 15, which includes some drop downs. So 1 and 2, and drop down on the third, and keep on going. So the next stitch, this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the next one is a drop down. You can see the space. This is 13, and then 14 and 15. So then you're gonna chain 2 to create a new space, skip the next one, and then drop down in the next. And then you just keep repeating those hearts all the way across. So you can see this is the middle in between the hearts, and so you're just gonna chain 2, create another space, and skip the first one out, and you are going to single crochet the next 2, and then drop down, like so, and that's part of the 15 that you need. So this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and the next one is a drop. This is 13, and keep on going, 14 and 15, and then chain 2 to create a space, skip the next one, and then drop, and then you just keep repeating all the way across. And in this case, when you go to do your drop down, you're just going to, you dropped, so okay, when you drop down in the end, there's only 2 stitches left, and therefore you just take a look, make sure everything makes sense even to the first, and then turn your work and match stitch to stitch, chain for number 12. So let's begin number 13. You have the first 2, and then you're going to then skip the next stitch, and then you'll drop after that, skip the next stitch, and then do 13 in a row. There's no dropping in the middle here. This is the middle of the heart, and then you're gonna skip a stitch and then drop. So you'll be able to really tell now when this is going out. So can you really kind of see how things are working out? So let's just back out. Do you see the hearts? They're just working their way out. So you'll be able to see that really kind of materializing before your very eyes. Let's begin rows number 13 and 14. Let's begin number 13. You're gonna chain up 1 and do the first 2 in a row, and then you're going to skip the next one and create a space, and then drop down immediately after. So you'll be able to see how the heart is being traced with this color as you're going. So you see how the heart is going up, and then you want to create a space, so chain 2 and skip the first one out, and you are going to then just put 13 in a row. So that's 1 and 2, there's no drop downs, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and then chain 2, and then skipping the next one and just jump down into this next space, and then chain 2. See how this purple line is gonna come up? The purple line is right between the hearts. That'll follow up, so you have to do chain 2 and then just jump into the next one that's dropped down right after it. So you're just gonna chain 2 to create another space, skipping the first one out, and do the next 13. And you'll do all the same, repeating all the way across. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and skipping that next one. So chain 2 to jump, and then just come on down, and then you need to chain 2 to jump, skipping the next one, and just do the last 2 in the row once you're ready to get over there. And then turn your work and do number 14. It's stitch to stitch, chain for chain. Let's do number 14. Let's do number 15 and 16. Lots of empty space here, so the first 3 will just be a single crochet, or will be some stitches. You have to drop down and then create a space, so chain 2 and then drop down. So there's 15 stitches in a row here. That includes the 2 drop downs on both sides, and then you will have your created space, and then you'll drop, create a space, your first one will be a drop, and then etc. At the end there'll be 3 single crochets in a row. Sorry, there's one's gonna be a drop, and then etc. So there's 3 stitches, one is a drop, and just keep following it along. We're getting close to the end of this, so you'll see that when you look at this from a perspective, you can see the heart is really kind of materializing, and this next row is really gonna be beautiful. So let's do number 15. Let's do number 15. You're gonna, the first 3 stitches will be this color, so 1 and then 2, and you'll see that there's a space, so then you're just gonna drop down. Watch how that heart really gets traced, and then you are going to create a space, so chain 2. See this line? So in order to do these have to have spaces in order to, for these lines to get traced. So you're just chaining 2 and then immediately jumping on the other side of this, and you'll be picking that up later. So that's the first one at 15. So then you just keep on going. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and the 15th is to drop down on the other side. So drop down and then chain 2 space to jump over the next one, and then drop down and then chain 2. So you just gotta keep repeating that, and then just drop down on the other side, and you can see how the 2 hearts just kinda got traced. You see that? Comes up. And then let's keep on going. Let's not get too excited yet. You want to just immediately start on the other side of this drop down. That's all part of 15. So this is gonna be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and the 15th is drop down and then chain 2, skip over the next one, and then just drop down on the other side of that, just like you see there, and then the last 2 are single crochets. So how's that working out for you? It's looking pretty cool. So let's continue then and go stitch to stitch, chain to chain for number 16. Let's do number 17 and 18. So there's gonna be lots of dropping down, so lots just to keep on going. So you're gonna do the first 2, skip, the next 3, which includes a drop down, skip, next 2, skip, next 3, skip. So what this is doing is it's creating the hearts shapes at the top. So let's just concentrate on doing this. This is number 17 and 18, and when I pull back this paper, see, you're not that much farther off. That's right. So 17 and 18 is next, and let's begin to do that next. Let's do 17 and 18. So chain up 1 and 1 single crochet in the first 2, and then skip 1, 2, and then you're just gonna immediately drop down on the one right after this. So you see how that heart's being traced when you look at it like that. So now let's keep on going. So let's do the next 2 in a row, and then you need to create a space. So chain 2, skip, and then the next 2 in a row, and then chain 2 to skip, and then the next 3 in a row. So the 3 is right in the center of a heart, if you want to take a look at it from that perspective, and then chain 2 to skip the next one and do the next 2. So 1 and 2, chain 2 to skip again, and then do the next 3. 1, 2, and then the 3 is dropping down, okay, and then chain 2, skip the next one, and then drop down, just like you see there, and then the next 2 in a row. So 1 and 2. So you see how it's following it up between the hearts, and then chain 2, skip the next one, and just do the next 2. So 1 and 2, and then chain 2 to skip again, 1, 2, go to the second one over, and you're doing 3 in a row after that point, which is the center of the heart when you look at it from this perspective, and then chain 2, skip the next one, do the next 2 in a row, chain 2 to skip the next one, and then do the next 3. So 1, 2, and the third one is a drop down. And then create a space, so chain 2 and then skip over that next one and then just go in the final 2. So see that you're getting ready for the next row. So let's begin number 18, match stitch to stitch, chain for chain. Let's move on to number 19 and 20. So we have the first 5 that are that color. You're gonna drop down there, you're gonna skip, and then you have 4 in a row. You're gonna drop down on the first one and the fourth one, skip, and then just 1 into the next one and skip, and then drop down, and etc. At the end of this one here you will have 3 stitches left, so you'll just come down. The first one is a drop down, and then you just return back for 20 for stitch to stitch, row to row, and we're almost done. Let's begin number 19. You're gonna chain up 1 in the first 5 are this color, so 1, 2, you're gonna drop down for the third, and then the next 2 in a row are each this color, so 1 and 2, and then you need to skip. So skip the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then you want to come down and you want to drop, and then do the next 2, so 1 and 2, and then drop again. Okay, and then you want to create a space, so chain 2, skip the next one out, and then just come into the middle. This is the middle of the heart. You look at it from that perspective. Chain 2, and then just think of it like a mirror, so you're just gonna skip the next one and then drop into the next. And then okay, single crochet in the next 2 stitches, so 1 and 2, and then drop after that one, so drop down. Okay, and then create a space, so 1 and 2, and then single crochet the next 2, which is take you to the midway point between 2 hearts. So single crochet, you're at the midway point between hearts, you're just gonna drop down and then begin again. So single crochet the next 2, chain 2 to create a space, and skip over the next one and then drop. Single crochet the next 2, so 1 and 2, and then drop again. Okay, just chain 2, skip over the next one, just go to the middle one. This is right in the middle of this heart. Chain 2, skip the next one and then drop. Single crochet the next 2, so 1 and 2, and then drop again. And then chain 2, skip the next one, and then single crochet the next 2, and then you just keep repeating this all the way across, and then at the very end make sure that you do drop down and get the final 2 stitches that are in there. So that was row number 19. Make sure it all looks like it makes sense, and then turn your work and match stitch to stitch, and then chain to chain. We're almost done. Let's go for 21 and 22. You'll see that the gray color is in the first 4. You're gonna skip over, and then these 6 in a row, so the first one and the last one is gonna be a drop down. You're gonna skip, and then you're gonna drop down here and just keep on going. So this is the very top of the heart, and then it's gonna be the rows number 23 and 24 that is going to then encase the heart within the project. So let's begin number 21. Let's begin number 21. You're gonna chain up 1, and the first 4 will be the same color, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then match stitch to stitch. What we're going to do is you're gonna chain up 2, skip the next one, and then drop, just like that, and then the next 4 stitches are each gonna be a single crochet, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the next one is a drop down. Chain 2 to skip the next stitch, which is kind of the middle of the heart, and then drop down on the one after that. So you can kind of see that's the middle. Okay, so just start again. So just do the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then drop down again. like that. Chain 2, skip the next one and do the next 3 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, and what this is doing is it's just finishing it off. This is between the hearts, and let's continue again. So we're gonna chain 2 to skip the next stitch and then drop down in the first one, and the next 4 are singles. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then drop, chain 2 to skip over that next one, and then drop in the one right after it, and then join its 4 friends. So the 4 next door are each a single, and then drop again, and then chain 2 to jump over the next one, and then you'll just do the repeats, and there's gonna be finally 4 single crochets on the last edge. So look at your project. Does it make sense? Yes or no? Turn your work. Row number 22, stitch to stitch, chain for chain, and finally the last 2 rows are next. And now finally 23 and 24 is the conclusion, and then you have to restart the hearts again for new layers. So you just start right back at 1. So 23, you're just gonna go across, and where you're gonna drop down is the spaces that are left. You're not gonna create any more spaces at this point, so you don't have to worry about that. And then when you come back all the way across, it's just 1 single crochet in each of the stitches, and then you can just change your colors or keep the new same color going. You might want to opposite the color, so what you did here you might want to do the opposite, and that's completely up to you. So let's do number 23 and 24. So number 23, just chain up 1. So I'm just matching stitch to stitch pretty much, and where there's a space I just have to drop down, and you will see that will totally encase the heart and make it look fun and fabulous. So I'm just dropped down and I'm continuing to go. So once you get used to this concept, you can see where those drop downs are. You can feel it with your fingers. And now I'm gonna drop. So that really, see, that kind of finishes off that heart beautifully. Now the real question that you'll have in your mind is how do you do this border? So I haven't looked at that yet, but I will, and that'll be in the next part of this tutorial. I might as well throw it in. If you get this far, this is in an intermediate level. I assume that most people can do the border, but I will show you anyway, just because. When you get all the way to the end, you need to turn your work, do number 24, just match every stitch. So just turn your work, chain 1 and 1 single in each, and then that will be the end of this repeat. So here we have it. I just finished this sample here. This is what my practice sample was. So you can see a kind of opposite. I made the darker colors kind of fun and fabulous. So this one I had the purple being traced, this one I used the pink. So you can see it makes a big difference in what colors that you choose. So now we're gonna move on to the borders, and the borders are going to cover over the top of these strands. If you are moving to another layer, you don't, and you're gonna use the same color, you can just carry your colors continually up, and then they just stack on top of each other like so. So if you want to change the colors, it'd be kind of fun. So let's begin to look at the border, and let me just review that first, and then I'll be right back. So I took a look at the border. There's 10 rounds. It's all single crochet rounds. The trick to it is that the corners, there's always 3 stitches in a corner. The middle stitch is always gonna have 3 single crochets each and every time. So when you go to start this one here, I would start on a corner and do your side edges. So each one of these rows were a single crochet, and in the rules of single crochet, if you're doing graph ganning and stuff, you will notice that each row equals a single crochet when you work on the sides. So just join it and single crochet the first one, and just put 3 single crochets in there. That's your corner, and just work your way up. So cover up over any of these strands that you have, and get those buried right into position. So just kind of pull on them and just hide them right underneath, and this is the beautiful thing about this particular concept, is that you're just moving on, each row equals a single crochet as you're moving up. If you feel like it's starting to ruffle, then just skip a row once in a while and that will also solve that issue. So you're gonna see you can just bury things over, and then once you get far enough, just kind of pull on any tails that you may see, and then you can just trim it and it should be good. Then it should be good. So you're gonna get all the way to the top here, and then you're gonna turn, single crochet yourself all the way across. When you turn, we make sure that you put in your 3 single crochets, and you'll do that all the way around. So the next then 9 rounds, whenever there's a corner, the middle one of the grouping of 3 is always gonna have 3 single crochets, and you're just gonna build it outward. So there's 10 rounds of this, which will then frame this afghan or blanket really quite beautifully, and it's a really neat concept. So this is an intermediate level, so I'm gonna assume that you know how to do a border. I've kind of explained it, and that is just a really neat idea. So this is it for today. This is the Party Hardy Mosaic Crochet Baby Blanket. Reminds me of a baby locket, just the way that it looks, and I'm not sure it looks that great on camera. From my perspective, my screens are really quite bright, but in person this is absolutely just really quite stunning, and hopefully that's coming across on camera with you today. It's got a bit of shimmer to it, and that might be part of the look because there's so much light blasting at it. Have a good one, and we hope to see you again on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as the crochetcrowd.com. Bye bye.